No one heard her crying that night. No one knew that Lena Hart, the girl who always made others laugh, was sitting in the dark, staring at her phone screen, waiting for a message that never came. It was 12:03 a.m. Rain tapped softly against the window as her phone screen dimmed again. She refreshed her messages. Nothing. Her last text read, "Hey, are you still coming?" Hours had passed. Still no reply. Lena sighed and placed her phone face down, pretending it didn't matter. But inside, her chest felt hollow. That familiar ache of being forgotten again. It wasn't the first time, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. People always said Lena was so kind, so understanding, such a good friend. But what they really meant was, she never asked for anything back. She was the girl who remembered everyone's birthdays, who stayed up late comforting friends through breakups, who made plans, organized surprises, sent good morning texts. And yet, somehow, when she needed someone, no one was there. She kept telling herself that being a good person meant being patient, forgiving, and selfless. But lately, she'd started wondering, was she really kind, or just afraid of being alone? The truth hit her during what was supposed to be a perfect night. It was her best friend's birthday. Lena had planned everything: the restaurant, the gifts, the decorations, even the playlist. She spent her last bit of savings just to make it special. Everyone was supposed to arrive at 8. By 8:30, she was still alone at the table. At 9:15, she checked her phone. A single message blinked on the screen. "Sorry, can't make it tonight." Something came up. That was it. No explanation, no apology. Just 4 words that broke something deep inside her. She sat there surrounded by empty chairs, the candles melting slowly, and whispered under her breath, "I'm done." It wasn't anger. It was realization. She had been begging to be seen in places where she was invisible. That night, she went home and made a decision that scared her more than anything. She was done chasing people. She deleted conversations that only went one way. She muted group chats that drained her. She unfollowed people who never noticed her silence. For days, her phone was quiet. At first, the stillness felt like punishment, a reminder of how easily she could be forgotten. But after a while, something inside her began to shift. In the absence of others, she started hearing herself. She began walking alone, sitting in cafes without company, journaling late into the night. It was awkward at first, like meeting a stranger after years of pretending to know them. But the more time she spent with herself, the more she realized she had been running from the one person who truly needed her, her own soul. One afternoon, she wandered into a small bookstore tucked between 2 buildings. The air smelled of old paper and rain. Behind the counter sat an elderly woman with kind eyes, Marjorie. "You look lost, dear," she said gently. Lena smiled weakly. "Maybe I am." Marjorie nodded. "Most people come here when they're searching for something they can't name." Lena hesitated. "Do you ever feel like you give too much?" The woman chuckled softly. "Oh, child, that's the curse of people with big hearts. But remember, even rivers dry up when they forget to flow back to themselves." That night, Lena couldn't stop thinking about those words. She opened a blank notebook and wrote, "I've spent years chasing love from people who can't even love themselves. Maybe it's time I learned to love me first." And with that single sentence, her healing began. 6 months later, the girl who once waited for replies was unrecognizable. Lena still had lonely days, but they no longer scared her. She woke up early, opened her curtains, and smiled at the light pouring in. Her mornings began with coffee and writing, her notebook now half filled with entries about self-discovery, small joys, and painful truths. She wrote about forgiveness, not for others, but for herself. She wrote about boundaries, the ones she'd never had the courage to set before. And she wrote about freedom, the kind that comes when you stop begging to be understood. One Sunday afternoon, she ran into her old friend, the same one who had missed her birthday dinner. The girl hugged her awkwardly. "You disappeared, Lena. We thought you were mad at us." Lena smiled softly. "No, I just stopped chasing people who only look for me when it's convenient." Her friend blinked, unsure what to say. Lena's calmness was disarming. Not cold, just grounded. That evening, Lena went back to the bookstore to see Marjorie again, but the shop was closed. A handwritten note hung on the door. "Gone traveling. Remember, your story doesn't need anyone else's permission to be beautiful." Lena stood there for a long time, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. For the first time, she didn't feel sad about goodbyes. She understood that not everyone is meant to walk with you forever, and that's okay. The next few months were a rebirth. She started a small blog to share her thoughts. At first, only a handful of people read it. But one post, titled, "The Day I Stopped Chasing People," went viral overnight. Thousands of comments poured in from strangers saying her words made them feel seen. Lena cried reading them, not out of sadness, but because she realized that her pain had finally turned into purpose. She began speaking at small events, sharing her story with others who had lost themselves trying to be loved. Her words weren't fancy, but they were real. She said things like, "You don't have to chase people who are running away. Sometimes walking alone leads you exactly where you need to be." Years passed. Lena became an author, her books translated into several languages. But fame didn't change her. It just amplified the peace she'd built from within. During one interview, a reporter asked, "If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?" Lena smiled softly. "Stop trying to earn love by proving your worth. You were worthy the whole time." That night, she sat by her window, journal in hand, and wrote her final entry. "I stopped chasing people. I started walking in my own direction. And the moment I did, I found the love that never leaves, the one inside me." Moral of the story: Lena's story reminds us that peace begins the moment you stop begging for it. When you stop chasing people, you give yourself space to meet the person you were always meant to become. The right people will never need you to run after them. They'll walk beside you willingly. And until they arrive, learn to enjoy the quiet company of your own soul. Because sometimes the most powerful love story is the one you write with yourself. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because maybe someone out there needs to hear this too. You were never too much. You were just loving people who gave you too little.